No one in this world can you trust. Not men, not women, not beasts. This you can trust.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Glory of Golden State Gaming. I'm your host, Swamp Swimmer, and with me, as always, the herald to my Kumar, Vespacian.
Yes. Oh man, there's so many good ones out there. I hope we never run out. That's awesome. Hi everybody, how you doing?
So, just a random thought of, well, over the past couple days, I've been under the weather. I have your typical cold you get every once in a while. And I was thinking, my wife, normally I don't drink coffee and I don't drink tea. I get my caffeine through soda. So my wife is like, hey, you've got a sore throat. Why don't you just try this tea? It was a ginger tea with honey, and I don't drink tea at all, but it was just like, it was heaven when I was sick. It was perfect. It was wonderful. And it just got me thinking, what is your Vespacian go-to, I don't know, comfort food or like mom and pop remedy for when you're sick?
You know, I love that, like, this is going to sound like pretty random, but I love that I like hot and sour soup.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know, it just, you know, like, it's so flavorful that it can cut through even if you've got like a, you know, whatever, the sinuses and everything. And the spiciness and the lemongrass is great to kind of like clear you up, and it's also, you know, really filling, really satisfying. So that's always been, I don't know, just from a pretty, I don't know, like since high school probably. Like that was always, you know, if I was sick, I'd be like, you know, Mom, you know, okay, I want to get one of those, or I'll, you know, I'd DoorDash it or whatever it is. So yeah,
I was definitely thinking. I mean, this new thing for me is this ginger tea, which really did wonders for me. But before that, mine was always some matzo ball soup from your local Jewish deli. That was, fantastic. Always good.
That one just misses the spiciness that kind of that I feel like it helps clear things up a little bit. But I also, there's this Good Earth brand tea that they do a caffeine-free version of that is sweet and spicy, I think is what it's called. And that's another one that's great for when you're sick, because it's, you know how you get that like gumminess and whatever in your throat and your nose and stuff, like that's another, it's actually a little spicy, so it kind of cuts through. So yeah, it's that's my tea of choice when I'm sick.
I might take you up on that. But anyway,
good.
All right, so anyway, also if my voice starts to fade in this battle report, please excuse me, or if it gets raspy, that's the reason why. But let's get into the battle report. We are into Vespacian's round 2 of Silicon Hammer 2023. You got 13 in the first round, if I remember that correctly. And you get paired into our good friend Ashley from the Sacramento area, playing Warriors of the Dark Gods.
That's right. Yeah.
Still counter thrust and hold the ground. Let's see here. Let's just jump into it. If you're interested in Vespacian's list, please click the link right above my head. It'll take you to the round 1 video where we go over his list in a little more detail. But let's look what Ashley brought. Let's see. Warriors are Chosen Lord General on a Wasteland Dragon. Big boy. 905 points. Touch of Greatness. Crown of the Wizard King. Obsidian Rock on Lust and Dark Prelate. Wow, that's a lot. And then a sorcerer on another big model, Wasteland Behemoth. Warriors of Pride, Warriors of Pride, Warriors of Pride, Feldrakes, Elder, Warhounds.
Yeah.
That's an interesting list. Wow.
It is. It's pretty light on magic overall, right? So it's got essentially the Dark Prelate and the Icon and the Infinite, and then the extremely light magic, you know, kind of fighty piece with the Wasteland Behemoth. But it's got, I mean, you know, you use up the points that would normally spend on a Wizard Master or something like that on tons of beef, right? So she's got the Dragon, she's got the Behemoth, she's got 2 Elders, so 4 pretty beefy monsters, 2 pretty beefy Feldrak units, and then the 3 Halberd Warrior units, you know, to be scorers that punch, you know, well above their weight class and have pride, so they're, you know, pretty stable. So So yeah, it was an interesting list. She sacrificed a bit on magic as mentioned, but really packed a lot in. And yeah, I was looking forward to getting another game against Ashley.
Yeah, definitely. This is definitely. Let's go on to your little pre-game thing here.
This one was a little bit brief, I have to say. I think I saw this as a green. I do think that it depends a lot on the mission. 30 halberd warriors and 7 Feldrax is a lot of pretty tough wounds to take off if you're talking about, a hold the center type of a mission, which is what we were playing. But this is one of those missions where the Lion Chariot Prince can kind of kill the world, right? I mean, he's got multi wounds too against almost her entire army.
Yeah.
And pretty good, soft stats compares. So yeah, it was. I felt like I had the advantage in this one. I think hold makes it. It's a tough objective to win. I think for me, I think pushing it is probably the more likely outcome if I can do it. So yeah.
And the other thing to point out here is that the special scenario in this round was the scenario that people had the most problems with. It's probably most impactful on the game. It was basically old school animosity. You roll a dice for every one of your units every turn. On a 1, they do nothing. Pretty impactful. Very impactful. So the TO, to their credit, told all the players, you can use this or you cannot use it. Each set of players determine what you want to play. We forgot to mention this in the last battle report, me with Daryl, because we didn't actually play it. We actually agreed to play it, but after turn 1, we forgot to do it every turn, so we actually didn't play it. What did you and Ashley choose to use this or not to use this?
We chose not to use it.
Okay.
And the truth of the matter, what from my perspective was, I honestly didn't realize that they had changed it. It actually, I don't know if you remember, but prior to that version, the version was like, if you roll a 1, you do it for every character in your army every turn. And if you roll a 1, they take a wound with no saves allowed of any kind.
That might have been it also. Wow. I remember that, but it was.
I don't know. Maybe I didn't pay attention, but that one I was like, that's. So I mean, I hate to say it, like that one is more than impactful. Like that one just completely changes the game. So yeah,
I agree. This particular scenario was too impactful upon the game. But this is the one. I think this is definitely an outlier. I think the rest of the scenarios were pretty good. Yeah, totally.
And the fact that they made it a player agreement, to me, took all the energy out of it. Like I just said, hey, look, I'd rather just play like a normal game, and she was like, that's fine, so no big deal.
Yeah. All right. So let's go on to this first image here, which is marked Deployment and Vanguard.
Yeah. So I very, very strategically and very thoughtfully lost the roll for sides. So I was able to go first, which hold is one of those scenarios where I actually do take a second thought about that. I mean, I'm a shooting list, right, that has lots of fast movers, so generally first turn is good for me. Hold is one where, especially bottom of 6, where you get that uncontested movement to try to, flip the objective is really nice, kind of like secure, right? Kind of like King of the Hill. So breakthrough. So I felt like I thought about this a little bit, but to me, really important for my shooting to do work before she can advance. This is the kind of matchup where if she just moves full tilt across the table and chaffs me, it's a problem potentially. So yeah, I was happy to end up going first and deployed like this. Left to right, you can see my chariots: Flame Phoenix, Frost Phoenix, Archers, Nova Griff, Sea Guard, with the Master's Krennic Tower in there. The Lion Chariot Prince, the other Sea Guard, the Reavers, and then the Lancers and the 3 SGR just spread across the back.
Yeah.
She counter deployed, and basically from my left to right, you got the dogs, the Wasteland Behemoth, Sorry, I'm in my way here. The Wasteland Behemoth, the Halberd Warriors, both Feldrak Elders, right? She's got some great models there for those.
Before you continue, I just want to point out Ashley's an amazing painter. Hopefully we get some better pictures where we can zoom in on some of her models, but they're awesome. But keep going.
No, so some great models. She used, what is it? I don't remember the line specifically, but she has a bunch of Mirsha miniatures and like creature casters, just so awesome. So she's got both Feldrak Elders, the other two Halberd Warrior units kind of behind and next to them. The little Feldraks, the big Feldraks up on the hill, and then the general on the dragon over there. So, you know, a couple of interesting things. I thought I thought the dogs over on the other side of the house were a mistake, right? I think that having them, like, to me, there's one thing those dogs should be chaffing in this game, and that's the Lion Prince, because of what he does to her army. And so I feel like you drop them basically right across from him and just, you know, try to mitigate my first turn movement. The other thing that I was a little surprised on, so like for example, what I would have done if I was her as like an easy quick switch is put the elders where the dogs are, put the dogs where the elders are. Because those elders out on the flank, real problem for me. They're well away from the chariot prince. I can do some stuff over there, but they can collapse that flank pretty quick if they work together. So I think right there, you know, some mismatches that I was able to take advantage of, or at least I felt like she didn't put as much pressure on me as she could have with her deployment, given that it was a counter deployment. So yeah, but you know, regardless, she's deployed very strong for the central objective, which makes a lot of sense. She's got basically all her big assets there. So, and her dragon over on the right is definitely a little bit of a problem. That's my weaker flank. You know, I find myself in a position where if she comes around the house with that dragon, it'll take her a little bit of time, but the Huntsman Prince can't be everywhere at once, right? And the Nova Griff's on the other side of the table, right? So, yeah, overall, I think some good, you know, some good pieces and a couple of optimizations maybe, but yeah, overall decent deployment.
Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely, she's got a lot of models to put you in hard spots with, so it's she could put something of others on the left side of the house here, but she's okay. We'll see. Let's see. Your next pick is top of one movement. So this is you, obviously. You got the first turn.
Yeah, so there you can see her cutting my flex card pile there. I take advantage of the left flank, you know, just having the dogs and move the Flame Phoenix over there. Pretty happy with that because essentially those dogs aren't light troops, right? So essentially that Flame Phoenix is chaffing the dogs in a way, like essentially they can't do what they need to do, which is chaff. So I was happy with that. That, you know, stopping them allowed me to get the chariots up a little bit more, you know, start zoning more centrally with them. And then the Huntsman and the Nova Griff are basically just like, look, we're going to stare at the center of the board, and if you move forward, like, you're going to get charged by something. I, you know, keep the Reavers close. She's got basically no range damage, so happy to have the Reavers just ready to chaff right in the middle and position all of my guns to start working on, you know, various assorted targets. I'm not quite remembering exactly what I went after this turn. Maybe we'll see it in the next picture.
Okay. Yeah, this is bottom of one. I don't see much taken off the board.
Yeah, it looked like I think I was working. I have a vague recollection of that first turn shooting being terrible, and you know, maybe just like plinking a few wounds here and there. I think the bolt throwers missed, and to be honest, like my strength 3 shooting is not going to do much against her wall of res 5 and you know, and 4 high armor stuff. So
I see one warrior missing, and I see a bunch of dogs missing too. So maybe you shut out the dogs.
Yeah, that's probably it. I think there's a little bit of a lane through with one of my Reapers over to the left to shoot at the dogs, for example. But anyways, So then Ashley's response, she doesn't do much on the left. You know, if anything, I think maybe she just stays about where she is on the left-hand side, which again goes back to my point, like those Feldrak Elders are move 816, like they should be rushing a flank, you know, in my opinion, instead of just standing still in the middle.
Yeah.
But then she does make an aggressive move on my right flank with the Chosen Lord on Dragon and both of the Feldrak units and one of the Halberd units. So she's basically positioning herself to say, like, look, you have to come try and take me off this objective, right? So pretty meaningful movements there. I think her magic phase, again, pretty efficient, very combat focused. So I think I basically just stopped the Icon of the Infinite down spell and whatever it was that she cast on, and that this was about it for her turn.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've this is the end of my
this is
turn
bottom of 2. Yeah.
So if you go back, I can give you like a quick rundown. So I saw an opportunity in the center where my Huntsman Prince and my Lancers had, I think, fairly average charges, like 8s maybe, each into that central Pride Halberd unit.
Right here, yeah.
Right there. Exactly right. Or maybe the Huntsman was like even lower, maybe like a 6, but the Lancers needed an 8 or something like that. And the thing that I liked about this was that the Huntsman could sort of not corner clip exactly, but be far enough over that he could hit the Feldrak behind with a very short overrun. So that kind of snaky looking thing right there.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a game changing play. It takes a scoring unit off of the central objective, and it gets me into one of the key targets I felt like that I needed the Huntsman to work on. I had a thought of doing roughly the same thing with a crisscross charge with the Lancers and the Huntsman into the central Feldrak unit.
Yeah, right here.
There. Yeah, but what worried me was that is a bit of a longer charge for the Huntsman. Like if the Lancers go in there by themselves, like they're toasted. Whereas on the left, like if I got just the Huntsman into that Pride Warrior unit, it's not the end of the world. Like I'll take a challenge and then break their steadfast the following turn and be ready to charge 360 degrees. So to me, it felt like maybe a bigger upside if I'd gone into the Feldrak unit on the right, because I could hit that Feldrak and go in, and then with the overrun of the Huntsman Chariot hit the other Feldrak unit, which to me means I win the objective basically as like a guarantee.
Yeah.
But I felt like the other one was a similar-ish outcome, but much lower risk because the Huntsman guy's just like a 6 charge. So I went for that charge. And now if you fast forward to the next, you can see I make both. The Lancers overrun out of sight with a nice overrun.
Yeah, big overrun.
Blow right through the Warriors. And then I overrun in that Feldrak in the rear with the Huntsman. She stopped Hereditary, and I got Awaken the Beast for Strength up, which Strength 7 Huntsman Prince on the charge into a Feldrak is that's where you want to be.
Are you afraid of the counter charge from the other Elder?
To be honest with you, man, like she could charge every single Feldrak and Dragon into that guy. From my perspective, like that's what I want. I want him to kill like all of those models,
Fair enough.
And he's got the strength buff up. Like, bring him on. Like that model wants all of those fights. And they're paired. I think they're paired weapon. It might be a little dicier if they were like Halberd or Great Weapon, where they can really blow through the armor. But AP3. I'm still a 4-up, 5-up. They're hitting on 4s. It's not a great combat, I don't think, for them. So, anyways, I think it's a little hard for me to see here, but looking at my other pictures, I think the Phoenix, So the Phoenix waked, and either with the wake or with the shooting finished off the dogs.
Okay.
So no chaff. And then with the rest of my shooting, again, doesn't look like all of my strength 3 shooting managed to do a heck of a lot.
Yeah, it's not doing a lot. It's not doing a lot.
Yeah. So no biggie. My magic phase was entirely focused on buffing that combat. So, but that being said, with this movement, I know I'm giving her the central token on turn 2, right? I have no units within 6 inches, so I'm hoping for the submarine on the on the central objective.
Well, as long as you don't get to 3, you're fine.
Yeah. So central point, end of turn 2, feeling fairly good. So we can see what she does next.
This is top 3.
Top 3. Let me see.
Oh no, this is definitely a lot of stuff here.
Was that end of? That was no. I think that's right, because that was end of, that last one was end of top of 2, right? So
what does she do in bottom of 2?
Yeah. So she does charge that other Feldrak into the Huntsman Prince.
Okay.
Right? So she brings him in. And then she advances pretty heavily, as you can see, with the dragon, the other 2 Feldrak units, and so what happens then in my turn, in my turn 3, or sorry, in her turn 2, those Feldraks, that Feldrak goes into the flank of my Huntsman Prince, right? I one-shot the Elder in front of me.
Yeah.
Right, to take him up, and it was close. I actually think I needed the lion's attacks to finish him off, because I
it wasn't automatic.
A bit with the Huntsman Prince. It wasn't automatic. I flubbed a bit with the Huntsman, but I did manage to kill it. She did nothing to me, or maybe 1, it looks like to me. And the Feldrak in the flank lost combat and broke.
Oh.
And so if you can kind of picture if you go back to the last picture, he runs to the left from our perspective, right? So towards the house.
Yeah.
And so what I did was I charged him with the chariots that are down there on the left, which ran him through into the back, and then my lancers, who you can see there, kind of past my Huntsman Prince, were able to push him off the table.
Oh, geez, that's rough. Okay.
So that's two Feldrak Elders dead at the bottom of 2, right? And the Huntsman Prince restrains, turns, and charges into the flank of those Feldraks from the center there. So now we're caught up. And so that's in my top of 3 that happens, and then in my, and then I redirect with the chariots that force that Elder into the back, redirect with the Nova Griff and the Flame Phoenix all into those warriors there, right?
Yeah.
And then the Huntsman goes into the Feldraks, the Reavers come to chaff the big unit of Feldraks, and I charge one of my Seaguard units to pin the dragon, right? I'll challenge him out, pin him. I just need to pin him for a minute, because basically, because my thinking is, if my Huntsman Prince takes off that Feldrak unit, overruns into the flank of the other Feldrak unit, in the bottom of 3, he frees up, and that dragon is dead, and that's 20, right? Because I basically wiped the army off the board with 1 model. Which would be kind of nuts, but that's essentially where we ended up. So everything works out. I'm not sure exactly where the next picture is.
Next picture is top of 4.
Okay, so take us back for a second, because things do go a bit south for me here. So there's a couple of things happen. The first is, on a minimized 10, I fail the March block test with that Seaguard unit that is free, the green one that has my Master of the Cranic Tower in it, right? That is critical, right? Because if I hadn't, unobstructed and with no counter charges, I can push that unit up on the objective and draw it against that Feldrak unit. I'm assuming I'll take that little Feldrak unit off.
Yeah, that's the assumption.
Right?
So you'll tie it turn 3.
Right. This ends up being a huge deal later, but at the time I thought it was kind of a mild inconvenience, but it was a big deal later because she then gets up 2-0 on the objective at the end of turn 3. Right. Mm-hmm. I also at the time didn't think this was. I'll explain a little later. Anyways, so then the other thing that happens in this turn is right. The Huntsman goes into that Feldrak unit. I can't remember if this one had a champion or not. I think it didn't. He kills 2 of the models. They auto break, and I fail the 6-inch overrun into the flank of that other Feldrak unit. Now, I'm happy with myself because I debated whether or not it was worth chaffing that unit with the Reavers, because I just assumed that I'd get that overrun and that it wouldn't matter. But I'm really glad that I did ultimately.
Yeah, really.
Because that saved me big time there. But failing the 6, that in combination with failing that march block check on the Seaguard there is a huge swing away from me, right? Because now she, at the end of her turn 3, she's up 2 points on the objective over me. And instead of basically wiping out both the Feldrak units, I've now got one that I didn't catch that's still alive, and the other one that's going to take my chap and still be able to sit there and score the objective. So the other thing, if we move forward,
yeah, what happened in this comment on the left?
Yeah, so let's go forward. I want to just check and confirm what I did there.
Looks like you blew them up, yeah.
Yeah, so I blew them up, and what I did was I either overran or just reformed with the Flame Phoenix, essentially chaffing the Behemoth, right?
Yeah.
And so I went through them. She charged my Lancers off the board with her warrior unit in the back there, right?
Oh, okay.
Leaving me a rear charge with my Reaver Chariots, right? And the Novagriff turned because now that the Huntsman Prince was not where I thought he would be, I needed somebody else to go and kill that dragon, right? So the other thing that was a little wonky, I think it happened. Yeah, so I think in the now fast forward into her turn 3. Remember, I charged with that Seaguard unit in my turn 3, kills the champ in her turn 3, breaks the unit, right? Mm-hmm. Or maybe wipes it, whatever. I did do a wound, which ends up being a big deal later. Did do 1 wound to that dragon. And then, so I've turned the Novagriff that way. I've moved the Seaguard up to be on the objective. And I've pulled the Kranich Tower Prince back into the archers at that point. And he has moved. What happened? Oh, yeah. Okay. So apologies. So this is my 4. I charged the Reaver Chariots in the rear of that warrior unit. My Flame Phoenix held up to the Behemoth's charge and has, is staying there. The thing with that is they're both hitting on 4s, right? And they wound pretty well. I think I may have gotten the Hereditary up or something like that. They both hit on 4s with like 8 attacks in total, something like that. So it's pretty swingy. I think the math actually comes out to be like 2-ish wounds, right? So as long as I can stick, like a 10 minus 2 or 3, I think I do some wounds too, for example. Like if I can stick like an 8, it's not a huge deal, right? So he does stick it. Yeah, so anyways, in my top of 4, the Chariots charged the rear of that warrior unit in the back that had just run off the Lancers. My dragon had turned, my Novagriff had turned and failed a charge into the dragon. It wasn't a slam dunk. I want to say it was like a 9, something like that. Yeah. But failed it and ended up in the middle there. My Huntsman Prince had charged the Feldrax there. and
these are the ones that rallied. These are the ones that rallied after
damaged ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like I killed the champ basically, and then they ran away and rallied. And then I believe some combination, maybe it was I'm not exactly sure how this worked, but basically that big Feldrak unit fled from the Frost Phoenix.
Oh, interesting.
On the back. Yeah. And I want to say that maybe the Huntsman Prince charged them and they fled, and then the Frosty, fled them again. Or there was some sequence, maybe the Nova Griff did. I can't remember exactly what it was, but there was more than one thing charging them. So they fled over there. The Frosty failed to catch them. The Huntsman goes into the other Feldrax. The Nova Griff fails its charge. And then the Sea Guard run up to try to start claiming that objective.
Gotcha.
And the Mastercratic Tower pulls back. I've got myself in a little bit of a challenge here. That dragon has some viable charges. I was sort of just tempting him, to charge the rear of that Sea Guard unit, challenge him out
instead of the Nova Prince. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Challenge him out and then go for the counter charge, but we'll see what Ashley does next. So. Okay,
next pick is end of game.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so maybe take us back, and I'll give you a walkthrough of what happens here. In this turn, I do think that my bull throwers managed to take off a couple of wounds off the dragon, which was welcome. Unfortunately, my Flame Phoenix does give up against the behemoth and dies. This is a little bit of inopportune timing. I think I even had like a res buff or maybe the hereditary up or something. It just couldn't hold on. And so then, the other one that was really disappointing was my full strength chariots in the rear of those warriors totally fluff. I think I rolled like a 4 or 5 on impact hits and just got annihilated. I think I stuck because I had the charge rear and a few wounds, but I think I lose like 2 of the 3 chariots, unfortunately. And she's able to reform.
I feel like you're gonna do some damage on the impact hits, but those warriors, you're just, even if it's just the back rank, gonna swing back on you with halberd. They were with halberds, right?
Yeah. The reason I went for it was they're actually not in ranks. I think they're 4 wide. This had something to do with the reforming after I'd gotten that Feldrak a couple turns before. So they didn't have ranks. And so I was like, cool, charge, rear, right? Whatever wounds I do. I just thought I'd beat him and run him off, and it didn't happen. So, so that was bad timing. So fortunately they stuck, but I do have now a behemoth who's got a charge into the rear of the Nova Griff, right? So, things have gotten a little bit dicey here, but my Huntsman does finish off those Feldrax and run them off. So there is that. So then in Ashley's turn, the dragon and the behemoth go into the Nova Griff. Because they're bracketing me, I can't flee. Fortunately, the dragon fails. It wasn't like a super close charge. I think it was I needed a 9 or a 10, and I think I had a real low roll, so I think she needed like a 7 or an 8. So it's in the middle, but failed it fortunately. And the behemoth goes in. To be honest, I would have been okay with the dragon making it in because I can pop the Nova Flare and go after him. And fortunately, I think now at this point down to 3 wounds. I think actually just getting the behemoth in the rear is worse than getting both. So long story short, behemoth goes in, and I think Ashley was a little bit surprised by this one, but the Nova Griff does like a decent amount of damage to the behemoth when she charged in. And she just didn't do a ton, again, I think the behemoth is like hitting on 5s against the prince.
That's super high defensive skill. Yeah.
Yeah. you know, the prince against the sorcerer is a 4-up 4-up because it's got a magical weapon. So I think she did like a wound and I did like 2 or 3, and we ended up at a push, or I was like testing on a 9 or something like that, and stuck it. Turned around in the following turn, so that would have been my top of 5. I killed a behemoth with the Nova Griff, and the huntsman, I think, charges the other Feldrak unit. My chariots do get killed and finished off by those warriors, but at that point they don't really have much that they can do. And I think now if you can advance us to the end. Yeah, so basically at the end of the game,
is this all that's left on the board?
Yeah. So at the end of the game, now I'm forgetting, one way or the other, I get the dragon. I think it may have been both throwers.
Yeah. That's such an anticlimactic ending for the dragon.
I think it was both. It was either both throwers or it was the Nova Griff. But one way or the other, I get the dragon. I got the behemoth. But unfortunately, as you could probably see from the sequencing of the pictures, Ashley was up early, 2-0, right? Because of that failed march check. And even though I ended up getting this unit, I was not like, when it fled 2 turns prior, it stayed within 6 of the objective, which meant that I pushed it that turn as well. So at the end of the game, Ashley was up, I think, 2-1 on the objective. And even though I had almost tabled her, I think there was like that one small warrior unit in the back that was still alive. Even though I'd almost tabled her, she'd won the objective. So we ended up with a...
Let's see here. 13 to you. Yeah, I was going to say, when you got through the first 2 turns as battle report, I'm like, my God, you're going to crush her. But I knew the result. I'm like, how did it end up being a 13? So yeah, I think... I mean, you could blame the dice. You can blame your march check here with this unit and the overrun with the Chariot Lord, but do you think you maybe got too aggressive at this point in the game?
I think that maybe what I should have been is a little bit more aggressive in some ways, right?
Really?
Like I think that I mean, the march block check, a 10 minimized, is a 98% likelihood, right? So you don't make plans around failing that typically. Yeah. But I guess one thing I could have done is, instead of charging the dragon with that spear unit, is I think then I could have had another unit to go after the objective, right? Now, admittedly, that exposes me to some risk, right? Because the dragon can charge the other 2 units, right? So I'm putting a lot of faith in my bull throwers, for example, there, or maybe even thinking about chaffing the dragon or blocking the dragon's line of sight with the Frosty, for example, something like that, to make like a really aggressive play on the objective. But I guess the other thing I could have done in theory is I could have held back the Nova Griff, the Chariots, and the Flame Phoenix, like not gone after that unit of warriors here. But I think that if I do that, then those warriors are there, and then they can just turn and head towards the objective, right? So it's a little hard to play out, but my thinking here was that I really needed to pin the dragon and really push her off the objective because she was already up 1-0. Yeah. And unfortunately, a couple of the high probability plans that I had in place just didn't come through. So gotcha. I don't know. I liked the aggressive play with the Chariot and the Lancers early to really open up the game. I think I auto lose the objective based on the positioning if I don't do something fairly soon. So. All
right. Well, interesting game. That puts you up to 26 on the tournament.
25, I think.
Did you get a 12?
I got a 12.
Oh, 12. Yeah, 25. Fair enough. Yeah, great game. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're still watching, and my round 3 will be up next.